Hey everybody. It's like 3:40 on September 3rd, 2021. This is gonna be a little bit weird because like I recorded a video, like a 30-minute video, but my attackers had frozen up my webcam, and I didn't know that the webcam was frozen up, and it won't publish on YouTube. So So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this, right, this 20-minute video, and it'll record the screen, and then I can post it, because I don't want to have to say everything that I said again, because it's kind of complicated stuff. It's not really complicated stuff, but my brain's kind of fried right now from the targeting. So I'm just going to go ahead and play this with me on the screen. Maybe I'll mouth some words or something, or I'll just be like, yeah, I just said that. Let me just go ahead and start playing it. I might like go get something to drink or something. But let me go ahead and start playing it. I have to do it I don't want to have to do it over again. I tried, it was like 3 times trying to do this. The first 2 times, like, I was just like, I forgot the name of the hurricane, right? That's how bad the targeted memory stuff is. I'm working on it. I'm making changes. God's with me. The world's going through a lot. Our country's going through a lot. America and Australia, our little brother, everywhere is going through a lot. Let me just start playing this and shut up. I'll just shut up and let Kyle kind of tell you. It's important information. I just want to kind of get it out there. I was even going to do it without anything on the screen. Yeah. So let me go ahead and start playing that. Hey guys, this is Kyle, aka Vulcan Wolverine. I'm not sure, like, my webcam looks frozen, like, so I don't know if this is recording. I'm gonna assume it is and just make a short video right now. I do want to say, like, with airplane mode on and my Wi-Fi turned off of the computer, my attackers can still freeze things up remotely on my computer. And I think that's, like, I just saw something the other day, and I think we all knew this, that you know, Intel chips have a back door in them to where the military-industrial complex can just kind of hack into that chip remotely, and I don't think it matters what your computer's doing, right? So I was kind of like, oh, I turned my Wi-Fi off and this and that, and I can get them out of my computer, but I don't, you know, I think they were psyoping me on that. But I want to make this kind of short and sweet. I wanted to talk about, you know, the hurricane came through. Really weird that East Baton Rouge Parish didn't get any flooding, but New York did at the end of the hurricane's path. And I find it weird, and you know, I know they can make and steer hurricanes, and I was thinking they can probably spin them so that they retain water in certain places. I know, like, Hammond got flooded. I wish I had a ventriloquist dummy, and then I would just, like, do that, and then my mouth wouldn't even be moving, y'all would hear my voice.
Okay, sorry about that.
New Orleans and Grand Isle got flooding, but it's just weird that we didn't. We're so close to Hammond, but then New York got this massive flooding, and it just doesn't make sense at the end of a hurricane's path. Maybe you know, nothing makes sense that's created, like, artificially. It doesn't match what would happen naturally. I didn't want to talk about that. What I wanted to talk about was, you know, the power went out and the Wi-Fi went out, and even my Bluetooth went out for a 12-hour period. I got my Bluetooth back after a 12-hour period, and the power, right, to my condo, but only, like, the racetrack down the street got its power back, like, the next day. And nowhere, like, a few other places got their power back. So it's very, very strange that my condo got its power back. I don't want to even go there and say, like, my suspicions about that, because I just sound insane, right? I sound insane. Targeted individuals sound insane, even when we're talking about the most simple aspects of this. And so I don't want to go into something that will make me sound extremely insane, right? But there's weird stuff going on. But what I wanted to say was, like, when the power went out, okay, not the power, but when the Wi-Fi was off for like a week or for a couple of days, and looking back on it, the power went out and the Wi-Fi was out and the Bluetooth was out. The ringing in my ears like was turned off. Like my attackers turned that off. The remote neural manipulation was still working. And then I look back, and during that time period where my wireless was out, no external hits, right? And then I think 2 days ago, like I went to sleep. I went to sleep with the Wi-Fi off. Like the Wi-Fi was not working, but the Bluetooth, my Bluetooth was. So people's Bluetooth around in the city was working, but the Wi-Fi networks were down, right? I woke up with the Wi-Fi network on, and also with this external heat, right, to like my, I think it was my left, like this, my left shoulder and back and stuff like that. When the wireless came back on, I noticed that I was getting like everything plus external heat to my body, right? And so this is my thinking, and it has to be hypothesis. I don't think my attackers think that quickly. Like when the power went off and everything like that, I think that they had lost some capabilities for external hits, but certain things were working, right? And I don't think that they shut off the external hits to psyop me. It just doesn't seem like they would have thought that quickly. So what it leads me to believe, and you guys put what you think in the comments, and I can't say this, I'm like, this is from what I was experiencing with my targeting, but what I would think from this, I hope this is recording, because I can't, like, everything's, I want to say this too, like, I've tried to post this on YouTube as just this with no video, and it's an audio file with the video would just be a black screen, and there's no reason that it shouldn't post on YouTube. So I might even be doing this, and it's like my attackers are just not, they're just cutting in and stopping that process, right? Like the turning the computer on airplane mode and turning the Wi-Fi off, they stopped freezing my computer. That was a psyop. So what I'm saying here, like those external hits stopped during the Wi-Fi grid, right, being down, and the power grid being down in my city. But I had power on, the Wi-Fi was still off, the Bluetooth was working after 12 hours, but the Wi-Fi wasn't, right? And I didn't get I didn't get any external hits until I woke up one morning and I saw my Wi-Fi was on. Like I was getting external hits, didn't notice that the Wi-Fi was on. I looked over and the Wi-Fi was on, right? So I just kind of wanted to say that. It might help us to figure out something. Yeah, might help us frozen for the webcam, but the time's running on it. What it leads me to believe is that external microwave hits, you know, there are ground weapons and stuff like that, but in my case, I'm not getting that right now. But it makes me believe that, it doesn't make me believe this, but by hypothesis, I'm thinking that external hits are coming from microwave towers, but this stuff with the ring in the ears, the V2K, the remote neural manipulation, that's on a radar-based system, right? Now, when they hit you with an external hit, you're getting microwaves all around your body, right? So it's strengthening that stuff that they're doing with radar. But my hypothesis from this, because I just don't think, now there's a possibility, right? There's a possibility that my attackers pulled off with the external hits when the power went out, but it just, the way that they, and that's what I wanted to say. I wanted to add to that. My attackers did psyop me. I turned my Wi-Fi, like on this, not on this that I'm talking about, I'm not sure, right? But on the computer thing, they stopped freezing up the computer after I put it on airplane mode, wireless, ran my virus programs, but while I was sleeping, it was on airplane mode and wireless, right? And I was playing Dave Case CD. That's when they erased my screen recording software off the computer without any Wi-Fi being on. So I just want to add, they did psyop me on that, right? And I even kind of questioned it. But this thing that I'm talking about, these external hits, it just, the power went off, no external hits, but all this other stuff was still going. The remote neural manipulation was weaker, right? I not just a feeling, but how my attackers work, and the automated systems work. I just don't think that was a psyop, but I am psyoped a lot with this stuff. They've been going so long, right, that they've kind of learned how I think. I'm kind of learning how their psyop front things, right, what they want me to see sometimes. But also some real stuff. I mean, also some real stuff. You just can't help but learn some real stuff about what and who is attacking you, even if they're trying to lie the whole time. You just can't over many years learning about what's really behind it, right? So there. Yeah, I would. Never mind. I don't want to break in. I just want to kind of get this rolling. I hope this doesn't suck totally, but I really don't want to have to explain this. It wasn't AI react. It was human operators. They turned the stuff up that was not affected to distract me, but they lost certain functions of the targeting. And this is with Wi-Fi going out for the entire, like my entire city, right? And my entire parish, but parishes around me too. And so it's led me, because I was like, oh well, I think that the external hits must be from radar, and then the remote neural manipulation could be from microwave. I thought about, like, we talk about that, but this leads me to believe that the ring in the ears, the remote neural manipulation, the V2K, a lot of that microwave hearing, it's coming from a radar system. But when you get hit externally, that's coming from microwave towers, because that was like completely turned off. When the morning that I woke up and my Wi-Fi was on, I was getting massive external hits. Like, it had just come back on. Now, possibility, right? It to me individually, with how my attackers work, they kind of do some creepy, obsessive, smart stuff with given a lot of time, but they're not very quick. I just want to say, you can't see it on the screen, but when I said smart stuff, I did this, right? Without this, it kind of makes it seem like I was saying, but creepy, obsessive protocols that are just like, wow, they really spent time on doing that, right? So smart, right? That's kind of what I meant. It's like when something happens, they're not like, oh, we're thinking about it right now and we'll psyop them, right? So it doesn't make sense that they would have psyoped something that big, right? With it happening like that, the hurricane coming, the power out, right? So I wanted to convey that to y'all. What it makes me think is that our external hits, and there's different protocols in different ways, right? But in my case, it seems like the external hits are coming from microwave towers around me, because it was like those were like shut off. Like the Wi-Fi was not working. Bluetooth worked shortly after, but like with like the whole communications with microwave towers, right? That grid being down, I didn't get external hits, but I was getting all the ringing in the ears. The remote neural manipulation wasn't as bad, which leads me to believe that some of these external hits and fields, that they're not fields, but streams of energy that are coming from microwave towers, power up the microwaves around you, and it strengthens the stuff that's coming from radar, right? Also, I wanted to say, somebody texted me and I was like, yeah, on one of my videos, I was like, you got satellites and radar, drones, you got a whole grid, a global grid, right? And somebody texted me and they were like, satellites aren't part of the grid system, right? Because they're thinking, telephone towers, cell phone towers and things, that's the grid. But what I mean when I say grid, and we can use another word, right? But this is just, there's a grid with like 5G and cell phone towers, but when I say global grid, what I mean is satellites, radars, drones, which would be able to surveil and attack a whole slice above the ionosphere, down that whole airspace, right? Down to the ground and even below. And that's what I mean when I say grid, right? So I kind of want to add to that. So like grids within grids, right? You have the power grid, and then you have the cell phone grid side by side. Those are two separate grids, but they make kind of a singular grid, right? The power grid and the cell phone grid, they can do things that kind of intertwine. So when I'm talking about global grid, it's like the big grid. Like there's many grids inside of that global grid, but I'm talking about all those grids, all those smaller grids working in conjunction, right? Because these things don't work separately. They do sometimes, like the power grid will do things that the cell phone towers can't do, right? They do separate things, but these things can intertwine, right? Like the circular graph, the two circles that a lot of the things they do intertwine, but then they do separate functions, right? So when I'm talking about the global grid, I'm talking about like all the grids put together, satellites, radar, everything that can surveil and hit people within the airspace from the ionosphere, maybe above, to like all the way to our ground level, us, our cities, our buildings, and stuff like that. Even underground can even send signals under the ground. So I mean, we can think of a different word for that, but I don't mean like the cell tower grid, right? I mean a larger grid that encompasses like a section all the way from like I just say the ionosphere because that's hey, and guys, I'm sorry I had to do it this way. I'm gonna try and still upload this, but I've tried twice and it's being stopped, and I'm like, is it something wrong with the file or something like that? I have an editing program, guys, but if I took this, I was thinking about taking this and putting it into the editing software and then like adding maybe some pictures to it and stuff like that, and then just creating the file to upload it to YouTube. It would take forever. It takes forever after you edit. It takes like a half a day or like 5 hours to convert to export the file so I can put it on YouTube. And it's just like with this information, I don't want to do that. But with some other stuff, maybe I will, right? I am very sick from the targeting. It's like it's been so long, so I'm trying to think of creative ways to keep going, right? And I am going to keep going, right? We're all going to keep going. We're all going to keep going. But just trying to think of creative ways because it's like I'm so tired. I don't have that focus juice, and it's not necessarily because I've been targeted so long. My attackers they keep the remote neural manipulation on a lot of parts of my brain, right? And it kind of suppresses or manipulates, right? And they'll show me sometimes. They'll take everything off sometimes, and I'll like bounce back to my usual self. It saddens me, but it's hopeful because I know that they're holding down. I think they want me to know that sometimes. Like holding down my memory, holding down my focus. Like, because I've felt focus in my life where you even love doing rudimentary tasks. Like you're into those things. Like when I worked at Dell, you got the focus juice, the serotonin and the dopamine and everything like that. And the remote neural manipulation, they can affect that. And I still base it, it's not really a hypothesis at this point, I'm pretty sure. You get certain electromagnetic frequencies, low resonance frequencies affecting the brain, it's going to affect the brain by affecting how your brain works chemically. And it can do that for short-term periods of time, where if they let off, your brain kind of snaps back to its natural resonance and its natural getting back to its homeostatic chemical functions, right? So it's a lot of hope for us. It's a lot of hope because there's another side to these technologies, right? And they're doing programs where they're making people feel really happy and really strong, right? But those people, they're not going to call themselves targeted individuals, and they're not going to speak out about it because it makes their lives great, right? We're not going to miss out on that because these technologies are coming out. Like I told y'all, the matchstick house is going to be that first entrainment device. The problem is right now, and thank you, like I got a donation, so thank you. Haven't gone in to see who gave it to me, but I saw it in my email. Just thank you everybody for donating. Like I got something. I'm not saying like please donate to me. Y'all know the score, right? Y'all know the score, and I want to be very open about that. Please don't donate if you're eating ramen noodles and you're down to your last money. I can scrape through. Like, I can make it, right? But if you're a targeted individual and you don't want to do activism, and you like don't want to put yourself out there, and you have to work and you have to do other things, and you have some money where it's not going to hurt your life, please, please, if you can, send some money, right? Y'all know the deal on that, right? And it kind of keeps me being able to do this. What I really wanted, well, I'll talk about that on a later video. I want to be really open about that, but I have and it's worse, like when I try and do what other YouTubers do, to ask you guys for donations and stuff, it comes off like smarmy. And so I really want to be open about that, because like I don't want to ever take money from targeted individuals where you're living mouth to, what do they call it? You're living foot to mouth, tooth to mouth. Where you just like you're living, you're trying to find your next meal and you're trying to survive. Don't send me money. Keep your money, if you can, because I can scrape by. But with my situation, it's like it'll help me to do more things. With resources, I can do a lot more. With defenses, with big things, because well, I talk about it in this video, but I've got a strategy. There's bigger strategies about ending the programs right now. At this time, the world's in chaos and people are not, they weren't able to focus on this and believe it before all this chaos, right? It's very ironic. We've got major weapons with Havana Syndrome and the Havana Act. We've got major holes to go through, but it's bad timing where the spotlight, there is no spotlight on a serious problem on the globe, right? Because there's so many serious problems on the globe, right? So I'm just trying to figure out, kind of take a step back and say, how can we keep going on this and get our timing right? And I know the world's kind of coming down. This is my balance, and I talked to y'all about this. Is I want to let go. The universe has been trying to teach me that. God's been trying to teach me that. But also balance it with, we still gotta help people, right? We still gotta talk about stuff. Like, I have no choice but to speak out about targeting, because they're doing stuff to my brain where it's, the more time they have and the more time they go. Now the defenses do hold them off, right? But they're sitting there. I have human operators that figure out okay, we can get this and strengthen this through. It's gonna stop these things, but we can keep going with this, right? And the more time they have, the more they get hooked into your brain, and the more they can just place the automated systems can deal with this part of the brain where they were doing this protocol, and they can move to another one, right? So for me, it's it's a necessary thing that I get to stop, because the brain is, the world can be, I don't want to say that, but it's Rodney Dangerfield said it. Somebody was saying, your life must be great, Rodney, right? You've got money and women and you're famous and you've got all the stuff that you want. And he said, none of that stuff matters. This is what matters. If this is in a good state, right? And there's also the soul and things like that. But just taking it on that level, you can be in a real crappy situation, right? But have the right perspective, perception, homeostasis of the mind, and everything like that, and it feeds into the spiritual, right? The physical feeds into the spiritual. So you can be in horrible situations. Like, I heard somebody saying it, and I'm gonna, Mr. Medicare is being targeted, and he doesn't know it. Like, he had cancer. He went. I won't get into all that. What did he say? He said, and I experienced this as a kid too with Crohn's disease. He has cancer, and he doesn't know I think it's the initial stages of a targeting, right? He says he has high-pitched ringing in the ears. He's going to doctors. I'll play this for you. I'm going to make a video on this. He's a guy who said that gang stalking was insane and stuff, and I'm pretty sure he's being targeted now. But he was saying when you get real sick, right, and he was talking in an aspect where it's not affecting your mind, really. You have physical pain in your body. It may make you depressed and stuff, but it's not like remote neural manipulation, twisting your feelings in a certain way, and your adrenaline and your fight or flight with your vagus nerve, and your endocrine system in certain parts of the brain, right? Like, you get sick and it's freeing. If you have a healthy mind, you're like, oh, I'm sick and I can just do, I'm going to do cool things. It's like, it's kind of a little bit freeing, he was saying. And I understood that because when I was little and I had Crohn's, it changed my life. It didn't affect my brain, right? It was my body that it affected. I got kind of depressed from it. You know, when you're hurting physically, it does affect your brain, but I'm talking about compared to remote neural manipulation, targeting of the brain and emotions and personality and things like that. But I really agree with that. Like you get sick and stuff like that. With this targeting, it's different because they're well, I'll just speak for myself, but I'm sure a lot of you like the same thing. You have your brain that's being targeted, and making every it kind of they can mess with your feelings and how you kind of feel about things, your motivation and stuff like that. And it's a lot different from just your body being sick. Like even if I had like terminal and knock on wood, like terminal cancer with my brain not being messed up, you're kind of like it's a little bit freeing. But with the mind stuff, it can be harsher than that, right? I need to show y'all a video because I'm pretty sure he's being targeted. He's one of these y'all hear it on this video. I know this is weird, guys. Like blame my attackers seriously. I really think that ex-marine who works at AT&T now. I really think he's involved because I used to see, and I'm not gonna go into that. I'll just say I used to see him everywhere, and it was like he was kind of gang stalking, checking things out. Now the only time that I saw him, right? He's a smoker. He goes and smokes, so we would always see each other, gang stalking or not. We'd see each other because I'd walk Pepper all the time. Now that was the only time that I've seen him, and I haven't seen him after. And he lives around here. That's weird, right? That sounds like, oh well, obviously he's not involved. But I think when he started doing the hacking stuff, it's like I don't see it anymore. Now, if I'm wrong, I don't want to insult the man, because I thought like I was like, this is a guy I can trust. He's not going to be involved in this because he's funny and he seems to have a good personality and stuff. But then I was like, dude, if they, because he told me, he was like, if they offered me money to do something, I'd gang stalk your ass. He was kind of joking, or I thought he was joking. But it's kind of like that. I think he's I'm not sure on that one. It seemed with targeting and how much money they're putting into all this crap, with the AT&T shirt, and then with the things that happened, because that's when I got him off the computer. Right, that night I got him off the computer. The next morning I see him out there smoking a cig with his AT&T shirt. So, I don't know. I think my attackers do that too. I'm not sure on that one. And if he watches my videos and you're not doing anything, man, sorry. But this gang stalking, it does. It does this to a human being where maybe somebody, it's a weird coincidence. And it's like, because you are being gang stalked, because there's purposeful stuff being put in your pathway, and you're being attacked 24 hours a day, it's a human thing to maybe sometimes like, dude, that's really a coincidence. Like, I'm pretty sure that's targeting, right? Because it's like this program is just taking over, right? All these artificial things that they're doing that have real death involved in them are just like spreading like a cancer. And and I won't get too far off because I want to finish this, but instead of excising the cancer, right, we're dealing with, or the population is dealing with the stuff that the cancer is, maybe blemishes that it's creating or something like that. Very, very topical things, and the cancer grows underneath. That's why, and I think about this sometimes. I'm like, there's so much stuff going on in the world, the hurricanes and everything like that. A new hurricane up northeast that's being created, on the East Coast. And I'm like, man, a lot of times I talk from an individual. This is what I'm experiencing with targeting, and it's like I'll look back at the video and I'm like, man, that sounds so narcissistic. People are like, you're worried about your targeting and your parishes in your state, all these people are suffering. But the reason that I'm doing that is because this program of targeting people, when those hurricanes come through and wireless systems go down and networks go down, they're resetting those things. It's not the only reason that they create hurricanes and weather warfare and things like that, but it's one of the things that they're going to do. And the way that power shut off for like every parish, was just so weird, because like the grid is compartmentalized. The grid's not just all just loosely it's not connected to where one part goes down and the whole every parish goes down, right? It was very weird how it happened. I'll say that in layman terms because I don't know much about power lines and stuff like that. I know that trees fell on power lines, but that doesn't shut off the whole power grid for the whole parish, right? Or for the whole city. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? But I'd say it goes further, but down even below the ground with all these different things. Right? Satellite to radar, cell towers, wind towers,
I'll do another
power lines, smart meters and everything. I hope this is recording. I kind of just wanted to keep it short, but this is 100%. Like it's 100% what I experienced for sure, that there were no external hits while the wireless was down in my parish, right?
Very sure.
But there was the remote neural manipulation, the V2K, the high-pitched sound were still going, and it seemed like my attackers upped them, and that makes me think they were trying to distract me from systems that weren't working.
Predator 2.
When it was down. Okay, that's kind of all I want to say for now. I know there's tons of stuff going on in the world. You know, y'all notice how I do that? Like I'll do that. It's 10 minutes and 22 seconds. There's like 15 minutes left of the video. That's pretty much all I want. Oh, and then I'll go. I do that every time. I notice that when I have to watch my videos, I'm actually sometimes entertained by myself. Because like it really is like a lot of the things that I'm led to, information or that I discern from my own situation, it's very like God giving me those words, like, but it's like mixed with my own words, right? It's mixed with my own brain and what I'm thinking, and then God will get in there a lot, and I'll say things that are very important that seem to come from somewhere deeper, right? And somewhere more connected to everything, not just this universe, right? And it's amazing. Look, I know that things are so dark. I may even say this in this video, but look to the other side, right? Keep going. Go further if you feel disillusioned or you've lost your faith or anything like that. It's weird for me. The way I see things is kind of changed, but I've never, because of my grandfather, right, and my dad, they've gone through hellish Job type situations in their lives, and the thing that they say, right, that my grandfather, like one of his last things he said was, even though he slay me, I will trust in him. This creation is so amazing, and miracles are worked through this creation simulation that's infinite, more times complicated than like a video game or something like that. Things that you could never imagine that could happen can happen if you have a certain belief that drives you along a path, right? So look to the other side to give you signs, right? Now, look to synchronicities and signs that cannot be controlled by your attackers, right? Something that could, by 0% probability, have been caused by them. Now, if there's a good probability that they could have done it, maybe just throw that one out, right? God will give you nothing. God will give you stuff where you're sure that it was not your attackers, right? It's very cool. There's another side to what's happening to humanity, to what's happening to the world, right? There's another side to it it's amazing, right? It was the worst of times, it was the best of times. This brings out, like, I see people speaking out about the things that are happening in our country and other countries, in these like magnificent, valiant, courageous moralists, right? They are moralists. They do things on a, not because it's a doctrine, not because it's a protocol of the system, right? Those people that are pragmatic and they go along with the system, what are they doing now? They're lying to people and killing innocent citizens and screwing everything up, right? But the moralists, they have a line, right? And I see this passion, I see this heroism out there. Look at that, look for that, and look to God, right? And look to that other side of it, and you will find miracles and love. And I think I say it in this. So let's just kind of finish up. Okay, past Kyle, go ahead. But I've learned more than you now, so I'll kind of help you out. My targeting is pretty severe. Um, they were even trying to freeze this up. Like I put my computer on airplane mode. Turned the wireless off, and they were still freezing up my computer. They even with the wireless off and the airplane mode on, like a week ago before the hurricane hit, they erased my screen recording software off my computer, and then I had to renew it. I had to get the newer version, right, and my activation key that was supposed to be for life, but can only be used once, right, was no longer able to be used, and I had to buy like I had to buy the another lifetime subscription to the screen recording thing. So my attackers forced me to do that. However, it is better because I can just record the webcam, where on the older version I couldn't. So it always was just me expanding the window, right? But this should be better. I'm pretty sure about this, guys. Like I'm sure about what I experienced, and I'm not like, there's psyops and stuff that my attackers do, but I'm just like, it just doesn't seem like on this one they would have been like, okay, turn the external hits off, and keep this running and up this, and then after, when he gets his Wi-Fi back on, we'll hit him with external hits. They don't think that quick about doing psyops. It usually takes them a while to kind of create stuff. And in the AI, the automated systems also do it, but I have human operators. Like a lot of the stuff they do is just like, it's human operators. Okay, that's it for now, guys. I'm having trouble thinking. I'm pretty stressed out. I think we're all stressed out. But let's just trust in God right now. Let's get prepared. I see a lot of people waking up because of how bad things are getting. Don't exactly know how to feel about that, because I'm just like trying to survive the targeting, and my attackers are kind of pushing me into a thing where I'm gonna have to go to that neurologist and get that evidence going, and get some authority figures on top of this with me, around this, so that maybe I can back the. So DTI, if you go to a neurologist, you want to get a DTI MRI. That's the white matter tracts, and when you have concussive quality damage to the brain, or it's been kind of delta blow, right, and we're always being targeted on the head, that those white matter tracts are going to change. I think that also they're saying like, oh yeah, like it's going to show effects in the white matter tracts, and they're like, oh, it's the ringing sound, blah blah. But the specific, I'm pretty sure that the specific remote neural manipulation, like electromagnetic effects that change how the brain operates, right, manipulates the brain, that's like, it's not twisting the white matter tracts, but it's changing it from an external attack, right? Your white matter tracts, they change when you learn new things and things like that, but you're getting things injected into your brain electromagnetically, and that affects the white matter tracts. So the DTIs are going to be central. That's going to be central evidence. That's like number one for me. There's tons of other evidence out there that people are gathering, but what my thing is, there's a lot of evidence that I don't think it's going to be accepted by the authority figures that we need to pull into this, right? My authority figures, I just mean scientists, politicians, any that have not been completely co-opted into evil and corruption, right? They're still there. They're still there. And I think that more people are going to be taking action in those positions now, because they see, right? Even if they were just going along to get along, like a politician or a doctor or something like that, they see what it's kind of rolling into. Some do not. Some do not see it, and they like think that all this stuff is okay and nothing's going on, right? And then some are mixed up in the master plan. It's the only way I can say it, Master plan sucks. Like for all human beings on the earth, contractor off, see if some things can work, right? Not God's master plan. I guess that's all I want to say for now, guys. I love y'all. stay strong, trust in God. This universe is so magnificent, and I hate that
I agree, Pascal.
I hate the things that are going on, especially for our country. But we gotta stand strong. I don't really know what country we live in anymore, but I fight for Americans. I'm an American. I don't know what to call this country, but I'll always fight for Americans, right? I'm reminded of Serenity, in Firefly and Malcolm Reynolds. He at the beginning of Serenity, he goes down and somebody's like, "You fought for the independence, right?" Because they had the independent side and the alliance, right? Ironic, right? Because that's what we're dealing with now. The independent people who want to have systems where they have freedom, and then the alliance, right? Um, I don't like calling them the alliance. But anyway, some guy, and it's actually Joss Whedon's dad who has the line. He's talking to Malcolm Reynolds, and he's like, "You fought for the redcoats, for the independence, right?" And Malcolm Reynolds goes, "There is no. We're all just folk now." And that's kind of the feeling that I get. What's happening to countries and everything, it's good people that you want to help, and we're all just kind of folk now. I'm not really. I'm into unity of the world if it was done in a certain way, but the way that it's being done is very evil and it's gonna kill a lot of people, right? So I'm not into that. But I do think about that line. We're all just folk now. Good folk. Okay, I'll stop talking. Like, good people need to get together, even if we have different philosophies, different ways that we think, different things that we think are important. If someone is good, and this looks stupid. Um, People that are good, we need to get together. We need to stop nitpicking, right? That's tough to say as a targeted individual because there's so many people within the system that infiltrate, right? And I wouldn't even I don't want to talk about another movie, but like I wouldn't even care about infiltration without the remote neural manipulation. Oh god, there's some COINTELPRO or whatever. Who cares? We could do lot. But it's with the triggering. Like people can say, and then they can inject. It can hurt. Like Brian's right about that. There are conversational scenarios. They're very dangerous. It's like psychological, way more than psychological abuse, because it's affecting the brain in a certain way. So if it was just COINTELPRO, but my attackers weren't messing with my head, and there weren't triggers and all these conversational scenarios and things like that, I'd be like, screw that. Let's just get into a group, and if we're just telling the truth, and we have a lot of target individuals telling the truth, it kind of just wipes that out. That's the philosophy I was going by, moderating calls and doing the live streams. At a certain point, when my attackers kind of have my brain, and I'm fighting that, it becomes like I don't want to say like deadly, but it's dangerous, right? It's dangerous to like keeping going and fighting. So we got to figure that out, and I think those people need to figure it out that are fighting for the other side, the system. That you're not just playing around with somebody. You're not just harassing a crazy person. A lot of times you are saying specific things that the attackers are ready for. They've told you to say certain things, and they will do, ELF injections to the brain and stuff like that with remote neural manipulation, emotions and triggering and stuff from those conversational scenarios, right? And I think that there's a lot of kind of know nothing COINTELPRO. They're told to say something or do something. Sound campaigns, noise campaigns, right? Noise campaigns and psyops, and oh god, like I had the couple that I was talking about, that I was like, I'd never seen them here before. They probably were from another parish that did get flooded, and they came and maybe were staying with family, but it was like a guy and a girl, and they walked out at the same time twice. And I said on a video, I was like, it's these new people, like there were way more gang stalking because people were coming in from other and it happened before. People coming in from other parishes, and they will just harass the targeted individual that's in their vicinity, right? there's some of your neighbors that know about you and they're probably just targeting you, but on a full scale, even people that migrate to your city, they're just going to target the people that are in the city because it's like a turnkey protocol. I remember that a targeted citizen used that term once. He's right. It's like a turnkey all the time, 24 hours a day, right? It's a good kind of a good way to say it. But they did that 2 times and like came out the door right when I was walking out my door, and then there was another time when I was walking outside. They came in at the same time. Even then, I was like, that could be coincidence. 2 times does not a pattern make, right? But then one morning I brought Pepper out, and as a couple, these people came out. The guy had his trash bag. His wife or his girlfriend or wife stayed back, right? And he brought the trash out. That's what some of my gang stalking, they'll bring trash out when I'm going to walk Pepper. And so they were definitely gang stalking me. I looked at her real quick and I just like I didn't even want to I didn't want to look her in the eyes. I just like kind of just turned around and I just kept walking. I just ignored it, right? It's so disgusting to me at this point, the gang stalking, because like my spine hurts. This is damage to my brain and my body, and people just treat me like I'm this insane person that they need to get out of 2 condos that my mom bought, right? She bought these a long time ago. My family, right? Well, not me, but my mom helped me out, and then me trying to put money into the place, right, as much as I can, own more than these people who they rent places, or those people, right? They came because of the hurricane and stayed with family, but they feel they have more right to be here and harass me out of like condos that my mom bought, and she puts money into everything that's going on, right? They need to fix a carpet, or the HOA expenses are phenomenal for they're awful, right? Right, owning property and then being harassed by renters that just because the system says so, they have more right to live here, and there's lies going around me, right? Because a moolah, tons of moolah going around, the experimentation part. And I would say that's for all of us. I look back, have you guys seen, like, if you just look up Oshner and Jab, but the other word, Oshner is driving the Jab, like, in the South, like, in the whole South. You know? I guess mainly for my state, right? But I was talking to my mom about it. I hate talking to my mom about this because she's so stressed out, and members of my family are targeted. Like, I'm sure of it. And I try and just, like, I'm getting to this point where I'm like, I have to see this as a game. The stakes are so big. It's from a comic book. Jeez, y'all know me, right? I don't think I live in a comic book or a movie, but metaphor is very important to me, keeping my sanity, right? I must put it in a certain little box for me to deal with, and then we can start talking, you know what I'm saying? But it's what Adam Warlock says in Infinity Gauntlet. People are like, why are you so emotionless and stuff like that? And he's like, why do you think this is a game? You think people's lives are a game? And he's like, I've got to treat this as a game because the stakes are so high, and if I let in the emotion about it, I will crumble. I mean, like I don't want to talk about this yet, but like my brother, like he's going through stuff, man. I mean, he's got his job and stuff like that, but I'm like, I think he's like, I'm not just thinking he's targeted. I don't want to know that he's targeted, but I know he's targeted, right? And my dad and my mom and my aunt, and then if my aunt's been hanging around my cousin and his kids and his wife, I'm like, this surveillance tree spreads. Surveillance trees spread, but the targeting also spreads in families, right? But I just think, I'm not like emotionless or anything like that, but the thought's been running through my head. The stakes are so high. Sometimes you've got to see things not as a game, like people's lives aren't games, but is like a kind of a puzzle, right? A puzzle to find solutions. I started crying this morning because I always thought, this is something that's been throughout, that I've kind of come to not realize, but it's formulated, right? Because I didn't want to have to deal with technical stuff like this in my life. Like Dell, okay, blah blah, but I want to like write a book. I want to, do some creative stuff that's wacky and weird, right? And that the targeting it's not destroying that. I'm gonna do some cool stuff before my life's over. But I'm getting way off. But I was just sitting here and I was like, my grandpa Truxilla was a, very very quiet, reserved man, but he was always thinking of solutions for things, right? Because he was a naval engineer and then worked at Albemarle, which was something else before that, which y'all would recognize the name. It's like an international contractor, but he didn't like make weapons. He didn't do anything bad. And as a matter of fact, let me not get off. But I was thinking like this awful thing, because I was like, I didn't get anything from my grandpa Trucks on nothing like him. And I mean, we would talk about that and laugh about it. But this, the targeting, it brought that out in me. It was another side thing, right? That was kind of like cool in this darkness, in this horribleness, right? So look for those things, God, pray to God in the name of Jesus Christ that He will bring those things into your heart, right? It's just kind of amazing, because I was like, I didn't get anything from my grandpa, but like working on a problem, right? Working on a problem. I don't know how I got off on that tangent, and obviously, I'm not going to become emotionless, but I was just thinking the stakes are so big, so many people are being hurt, and I'm a very emotional fellow, right? God made me that way, and the way that I was raised and stuff, it was very, it was good. It was good to be very emotional and very empathetic when the world was kind of normal and it wasn't being terraformed for psychopaths, right? Now in the system, if you're very emotional, I mean, it can well, especially if you're targeted, it can just fry your systems, right? Because it's so much. But God, we pray to God for a balance, for homeostasis, and He will give it to us. He will give it to us, come hell or high water, right? Come hell or high water. Sad. All right, I love you guys. I just kind of wanted to tell you all that. It really gives me the hypothesis that that external hits are coming from microwave towers, and that the head stuff, the remote neural manipulation, ring in the ears, the microwave hearing, that's based on like a radar-based system, satellite to radar, and other things that weren't affected because the whole wireless grid went off. The thing that seemed affected, right? Because I woke up with external, just like this stream of energy just hitting me on the left side, right? And I looked at my modem, and the wireless systems were back on, right? And it was like the wireless network for the whole city, for the whole parish. We're the only state that calls cities parishes, so that's why I'm always like, oh, my city, my parish. Which also makes me think this. It makes me think that, they don't just. It's not like, okay, I've ruined this video by doing it like this. Like y'all, I hope y'all got the point of this. Just the point of it, the major point was that when the wireless networks were off, I was not experiencing external hits. And that gives me the hypothesis that our external hits come from microwave towers, also ground weapons, but I'm not experiencing ground weapons, right? And that the remote neural manipulation, high-pitched ringing sound, voice to skull, those things I think are on a radar-based system, right? Just hypothesizing, but that's the general thing. I wanted to say, while I was talking just then, I had the Predator song going through my head. Dun, 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 dun. I keep doing that I keep humming that in my head to my attackers, and I was saying that's going to be our theme song now, right? Because they're predators, right? I love those movies. Like, give me this. It just kind of. They're really cool because it's like a predator. He's like invisible, right? And then he's hunting people. And then Danny Glover. I like Danny Glover. Okay, I'm not gonna go too much. I've ruined this already. But I like Danny Glover better than Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Predator movie. Because Danny Glover's agent must have been incredible because he's like old and he's kind of stiff, right? He doesn't seem like he would be like that kind of action. So it seems like Lethal Weapon, yeah, okay. But Predator 2, his agent must have been spectacular. But he was great. It's great. Like, it's so unique the way that he's an action star. And he has this one scene where he's like, the federal agent comes in, right? And he's just like, he's an LA cop, like in the it was like 1997. Like the movie says 1997, but the movie was made in like 1990 or something like that. So in the near future, right? And he's like this LA cop, and he just completely like the federal agent. I think it's like this. You learn it's the CIA. And he just completely goes around him. He doesn't listen to him. And he has this one scene where he's holding the guy up against the wall, and he's like, "Don't get in my way." And then he lets him go, and he goes like this, like the guy's standing there, and he goes, and he just smacks his hand on his other hand and walks away. I was like, that's the great. I bet you that was improv, but it was just, it was like awesome. He's like, I love Danny Glover. I really do.
really
Weather
love Danny
warfare
Glover.
with a hurricane, and we're gonna
always like-
shut off the grid. We're gonna shut off the Wi-Fi grid, right? And then we're gonna do some changes on that. It's like when they do these things, they have many angles of the system that they want to recalibrate and reset, right? And I think that's part of it. I think it's part of it is recalibrating not only the power grid, but the cell phone grid, microwave tower grid. And I think that I said I had to make another video because my attackers are hitting me pretty hard, and like this is the thing. Like I'm not gonna go into that. I love you guys. I just want to say that. So some of you big brains, think about that. Think about what I just said, because we had a situation where all of the wireless went out in my parish, right? It was like all the wireless was out. We had Bluetooth, but the towers weren't working, right? The towers, I don't know how Bluetooth works, but it seems like even though Bluetooth was running and wireless was off, the external hits weren't coming. And it seems like my attackers overcompensated on other stuff. Looking back, right? I made videos during it, and I was just like, well, it's kind of the same because my attackers don't always hit me with external hits very hard, right? They'll do it kind of intermittently, but they, like after so many years, they're focused on my brain. Like the extreme heavy external microwave torture was like the beginning, like 7 years of it, right? And then it's kind of like the external hits have kind of trailed off. I think that there's a lot of manual. There's remote neural manipulation that can make you feel like you're getting external hits, but when they're really hitting you with external hits, it's a lot of manual playing around with it and hitting from microwave towers and like doing certain things. And it's like my attackers, like they kind of were working on other things that are more sophisticated with my brain, and they pulled off of that, right? Because they want to traumatize you for a long time. Still hit me. You know, the remote neural manipulation can make, like, this is the problem that I'm working with, problem that I'm dealing with, is the remote neural manipulation. Well, a lot of problems, but one of them is like the remote neural manipulation. Like I'll wake up and it's just like I'll feel hot and cold in my innards, like in my spine. Like there's a lot of like not just tingling but sharp pain like in the middle of my spine, and I'm like, oh, have they damaged it, right? But I think that it's specific pain from remote neural manipulation, right? So they can still do pain from that, but I'm talking about like I woke up and it was definitely external. It wasn't the remote neural manipulation. It was like external to the left, and I noticed that my Wi-Fi was on. And for the time that the Wi-Fi was off, my body was more comfortable. It felt like the remote neural manipulation was still going. The V2K stayed at the same level, but it felt like the remote neural manipulation's effect on my brain was weakened. And so I think that these external hits and streams of energy, it's like getting on, it's like conducting on your skin, and you have microwaves surrounding you. So those radar systems where they're doing like, and this is something I don't, I hear my mom's voice in my head. Not for real, not the V2K, but I hear the voice of my mom saying, "Don't go there." It's just so weird. Like my condo, the racetrack on the corner didn't even get its power back till like the next day. We were like one of the only places that got our power back in the entire parish, right? To what I could see, because I drove out and everybody's power, some people's power, I guess, was still on. Probably just a coincidence. It's probably just a coincidence. But when you add up, this is, I'm just gonna say this separate from that coincidence, right? For real, because that's too big for me. And that's too big. It can't be that. It cannot be, right? I can't go there. But I do want to say, when your electricity's on and your smart meter's on and the wiring in your condo or your house is on and your electronics, your computer and everything is on, you've got these electric fields and electromagnetic fields that then what they're doing from radar and the microwave towers is strengthened from that, right? My attackers have lost that, and the wireless network was down, right? And then my power comes up 12 hours exactly later, but everybody's power's down for like a week, right? And then some parishes, their power's still out, right? And massive flooding and things like that. So it's a thing that makes me go, and I'm gonna stop there, right? I'm gonna stop there because that's too big for me to say. Like, I was going through it in my head, and I was like, there must be, because I'm a targeted individual, and they must have picked up some other targets in this building and the gang stalkers. So there's a lot of money in this place with operations by the sheriff's department and DHS and the contractors going on in this condo, right, in this area. Um, but I'm not going to go there. I'm going to say we got lucky and got our power back on. But I just want to add separately. I mean, that's all. It's too big. That's too big, right? Like, it already. I just. We just kind of got to finish this video. I already kind of ruined it and it's going too long. But that's kind of. I'm just saying, like, when your power's on. I just want to say this separate. When your power's on and your power for your place and your smart meters running and your computer's running and your smart TV's running and everything's running right, your tablet, you're getting these electromagnetic fields where the systems, the integrated weapon systems that they're using, can target you better, right? But even with this stuff off, the targeting, the high pitch sound, voice to skull, some of the remote neural manipulation, it had definitely weaker level, definitely, right? With all that off. So things that make you go, in the way that this is also just like an electromagnetic field and then bidirectional stream to the brain. Those things are strengthened because you've got microwaves just kind of covering you from external hits, right? And I felt like some of those systems were weakened, and I think it's because of the combination with the external hits from microwave towers. So it's making me hypothesize that, and I think I had it the other way for a long time. Kind of just like, man, kind of like theorizing about what does what, but really, it's we're on the other side of it. But this is pretty solid. Like cross my heart, hope to die. This is pretty solid. What I experience now. Did my attackers pull off of external hits, and then when my wireless came back on, hit me with external hits to psyop me? I don't think so, because they don't work that way. Like, I know how these guys work, and they don't work that quick. So I just wanted to impart that to you guys. I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. Just God bless and protect you. Let's keep moving forward. It's tough because there's like chaos in the world, and this is such a huge. If people understood like this huge directed energy weapons grid and how it plays into everything that's going on in the world, maybe people could be more aware in their fight against this tyranny. We all know it's out of control. I mean, it's apocalyptic, the things that they're doing, right? But I love you guys, and God is in control. I mean, like, I'll talk about some stuff. Like I just want to kind of keep this short. It's like it's been 20 minutes. There's some sure
Just want to
signs
kind of
from
keep this
God
short.
and from this universe. I don't think this is just this universe and that's it. I think it's like way more complicated. But I'm just getting some sure signs and some mercy, some divine mercy. Like, hey, I'm here because this is so bad, right? So look for those signs. Look for that comfort, right? I love you guys. More to come, and I'll kind of tell y'all kind of my plans on, um, what I need to put that article out. Like I think it was like 3 weeks ago. I wanted to put an article out, and then my attackers like kind of just shut down, froze my computer, and then this hurricane comes, right. And I'm not saying like, oh, it's all for they were stopping me with a hurricane. Like I'm not that insane, right? Yeah, yeah. And so like sometimes I think I'm just not gonna go certain places on this. It's the juxtaposition with how we are treated, and I'm going to speak for myself, but I know that others, you guys, are experiencing this. The money that's put into this and the resources that are put onto us because they're making money off of us is so absurdly juxtaposed against how people see us. Oh, you're a mentally ill, selfish person, right? The juxtaposition of what's really happening to us and the weight that we have to carry, gang stalking, and being like, your body just being microwaved and signals being sent down your spine to parts of your body and stuff, and your body, like after a decade of that overtly happening, but maybe longer, it's like, and then people are like, hey, you're a piece of crap that we want to get out of here, and we don't know anything about you. Like, what? The money put into this. So it's like, I'm gonna be careful about how I speak about this, especially on YouTube. I might have some crazier videos and theories, like maybe on Odyssey. I'll tell y'all kind of my plans about that stuff, but I've got to configure things, to get out information to you guys that watch my channel, right? Because a couple of hundred targeted individuals, when I'm going and doing these projects, it's dangerous. My attackers, after the live streams and after I'm like starting to I want to build up some different directions, right? And they are freaking out. They want it just stop my computer and hurt me bad. It's a sacrifice, right? Like I've talked to a lot of targeted individuals, right? And you guys are right when you say I don't want to talk about too much about what's going on, like the details of what's going on with me, because it brings more, right? Your attackers like hear you say that, and we, some things it's like they're figuring out from our brain, but when we say it out, then they'll do that thing more. Y'all are exactly right. Like a ton of targeted individuals say that, and I get it, and I know it, and I've known it the whole time I'm doing this. You see, so I'm like, how do I work smarter, and how do I because I'm the physical health thing is getting to where I can't just go. I don't know. God's gonna do. I don't know what God's gonna do, but it's through the years, like I'm gonna get tackled for putting this video out, and then I just adrenalize up, right? And it's getting a little bit harder. It's getting a lot harder. And then with the other chaos going on around the world, it's like, wow, this is overwhelming. And I think it's overwhelming to even non-targeted individuals talking about the things that everybody can see, right? Um, just thinking, just thinking. I'm definitely going to keep working for us. I have no choice. Um, because the brain stuff is not. None of this is acceptable, right? But the brain raping and manipulation is the most unacceptable, inhumane, human rights violation that's ever existed in humanity, right? Even more than some of the other things that they're doing that I shall not speak of on the YouTube, right? So let's finish this out. But I think that when I want to do a rambling session, I'm gonna put it on BitChute and Odyssey, and then like I'm gonna get YouTube to where it's like articles about the legislation and things like projects that I'm working on and things that I kind of want to get far along in, and until I announce them, right? Announce the results of what I'm going out and doing, right? Um, Everybody's working so hard. Like so many good people in the world are just working to hold their families together, just prepare, food and water and things like that. I can't really speak to bugging out because I don't have enough money to bug out and go anywhere. But I'd say if you had money, like a lot of money, get out of the cities, like now. Get out of the cities and get out into the woods, into that area if you can. That's what I'd say. That's what I'd do. Shoot, that's what I'd do. I'm thinking of a lot of stuff. I'm thinking of a lot of stuff. You know. And it won't be all just spaghetti thrown at a wall. It'll be like spaghetti that I'm sure will stick to the wall. I'll feel the noodle. Okay, geez, I'm sorry. Feel the spaghetti noodle and make sure that it's gonna stick to the wall, right? I'll do that smarter. I want to try and stop from sounding, because like the basic stuff, right, of targeting sounds so insane. And then it's like, it's weird. It's weird that the power to my condo and like I asked my maintenance guy, and he like knows about the generators and how they kind of and he was freaked. He was like, it's so bizarre. We're so lucky. So it was lucky. So I'm just gonna think that because I can't even go there. Like I go everywhere in this targeting that we need to, or I try to, right? But like me getting the power back like on 12 hours afterwards, I still, this is something that I will say. The grid is compartmentalized, and the electric grid is what I'm talking about. I say grid. There are many grids. There's like the power grid. There's the phone grid, and then I talk about a global grid that's like basically taking slices all the way from the ionosphere down to underneath the Earth, right? And I consider that a grid because anything can be kind of hit in that little slice and affected by directed energy, right? So that's when I'm saying global grid. I need to explain that because like some people are like, hey, satellites aren't part of the grid, and they're talking about like the power grid with the cell phone grid, right? But I'm talking about like a bigger grid that does include satellites, radar, drones, wind towers, right? That and other stuff that I don't even probably know about. That's like that is basically can surveil, right, and cover a whole slice from the ionosphere. Okay, and let me add this part because sometimes like I'm talking and I'm thinking that y'all are definitely putting together what I've said before, right? Integrated directed energy weapon systems, but I just want to make it really clear, right? Our attackers, they'd be on an integrated directed energy weapon system that had neuro weapon systems on it. They access this grid through that, kind of like we access the internet through our computers, right? So they have weapon systems, monitors. I know that people say they have this VR interface or whatever. Like we can discuss that, I guess, but no, they have monitors up where they have like your remote neural monitoring stuff, like your inner voice stuff, the surveillance stuff, what's on your computer screen stuff, what's on your phone screen, the phone software and stuff. They have like a integrated weapon system that's connected to that slice of the global grid, right, where you are. And I think that I don't know about this, but like when I went to West Virginia, they had to switch things over to another slice of that grid, right? A different satellite satellite and radar. I think the radar stayed, right? Even when I was going to West Virginia, even in the plane, I think. But the other systems had to be switched over, you know. I don't know. That gets kind of complicated. The globe, and I'm like I'm like a blind man, right, looking at an elephant. That's what we all need to realize. What you need to realize about even non-targeted individuals that are looking into the truth, like people looking into the truth, there's so many complicated things going on, and we're all kind of like blind men looking at the same elephant. Like the targeting, did you, that, no, the CUV, Robert David Steele, man. Robert David Steele, they said that he passed away from CV. I don't want to talk about my thoughts on that. He had bronchitis too. He had bronchitis too, and he would not take the jab. That's all I want to say right now about that. But that's all I want to say right now. Let's finish this out, right? So I wanted to clear that up because somebody texted me and was like, satellites aren't part of the grid. I think that's it. I think that's it for now.
That felt good.
I love you guys. I'm working, I'm praying, I'm meditating. Just pray to God right now. Get with God. He'll lead us. He'll lead us, if not to a place, He'll lead us to a perception and a living alongside of this evil world that will bring comfort no matter what. That will bring comfort, love, and victory. It's up to. I just want to add this. No matter what, right? No matter how God's plan is fulfilled, right? If it's revelations now or later, He will give us comfort. He will give us joy. He will give us love. Dude, this other side, and I'll make more videos about it, but I probably will stick with the YouTube channel. I've got to stick with just like news articles, projects, things like that, because this has really affected me as an artist, right? I'm a Pisces, and this is not the stuff that I would have focused on in life. That's what. Did I say this on my grandpa thing? Did I tell that story? Yes, I did. Okay, memory. But it's affected me because my creative process is doing like mirror inside of a mirror weird stuff, and I've thought about projects to do. I'm probably gonna write a book about this, about like what I'm experiencing now, going back to everything I know about it and stuff, and not fantasy in any way, right? But like I wanted to write a fantasy book, and I have the first draft. I had the second draft, but it got destroyed in the fire at that house that burnt down. The second draft did. And it was on a USB drive that got melted. And it's, I don't want to tell y'all exactly what it is, TM, but, I was thinking about change because of the targeting, going back and writing the second draft again and adding some things about that, like, and mixing it with fantasy, right? But I'm like concerned about that because I don't want that people like, oh, this fantasy, this imagination part. Well, that must be what he's experiencing with the targeting, right? I kind of think we're past that with Havana syndrome and things like that. But that's just an example of like my creative, because that's what I do. Like I want to mix things in my real life, mirror inside of a mirror. Like I don't want to go into. Well, this is really cool. The Lord of the Rings in The Hobbit. J.R.R. Tolkien, he wrote them and wrote about how he wrote them because he got this book, an ancient book that was written, right? He made that up. He made that whole mirror inside of a mirror, like this was him just taking something that he found and writing about that time period in ancient Europe, right, where there was wizards and trolls and stuff. That I love that, like that meta. That's how you get this really creative thing going. He made a world. He made a language. He took it, like the elven languages and stuff. He took real languages and put them and created a world because he said to himself, this is how I'm going to think of this, right? I'm going to think of this as I found a book. I'm going to write about that, I love that kind of stuff because it's like, it takes creativity up to another notch, but then it's like with the targeting, it's like we've got to stay down. We've got to like keep our feet on the ground with everything, lest people look at those creative things or spiritual things that we're trying to not grapple with, but roll out. And that's why they pick very creative, very spiritual people, because we talk about stuff that it's like we're not exactly sure of on the creative front. And then people see that and they're like, oh, they see the targeting that's not on the creative front. It's just a concrete thing that's happening that seems so sci-fi. And they're like, oh, they must be mixing their imagination with that. That's why they pick some certain people with very creative imaginations and stuff. It fits into them looking like they're insane. It's like awful. The things that are going on in the world, take the best things that God has created and like make a mockery of them while hurting us, and it gets more and more. And I just like every day, I don't know. The woman on my V2K is like, he's right. This is getting crazy. Like, but dude, these human operators, and it could be there's an automated things right with the V2K. They're hooked into this technology. Like they're at these integrated weapon systems. A lot of them, if they're there, they're doing brain to computer interfaces. So they have received like things like nanotechnology and stuff like that in ways where this stuff is hooked into it's hooked into them forever. I even think maybe some of the top gang stalkers in the community will be directed by V2K, and they think it's really cool, and they don't think about my brain is now connected to this, and they're going to see my family through remote neural monitoring because they don't know about that part, right? So a lot of people are going, yeah, well, you just put V2K in my head, and then I can show up at the door at the right time to harass this person, but then they're connected forever, right? Or unless we, when we get this stopped, right? Um, so, I see my attackers. I don't know. I don't think they could get out if they wanted to. I mean, I think they'd just be targeted. Um, so it's like the mafia, right? And I say that all the time. We have a better chance of getting out of this than they do, you know, which is weird. Which is weird. We have a good chance of things changing. I don't know how it's going to happen, guys, but I have a lot of I have a lot of hope, right? I have a lot of hope. I have a lot of hope. Right now is a stressful time, and it sucks because the mental stresses come from targeted things being done to my brain, not necessarily the things going on in the world. And that's necessary for good people to have that, these bad things not affect their perception. It does anyway. But to be sturdy of mind and sturdy of body when these things are going down where you got to protect your family and protect yourself in this crazy world, right? And you got to think fast because people are going to be trying to force stuff on you and things like that. And there's ways to get out of it. There's creative ways to shove it back in their face, right? But when your brain is being artificially meddled with and manipulated, and even, I don't think like sometimes I'm like, oh man, just the long term. I think I said this on a video. The long term stuff is causing Alzheimer's, but I'm pretty sure those things are specific, and my brain can heal, right? And even if you don't feel that way, these technologies that do negative things to our brain and chemical functions of our brain, there are technologies that are coming out that can not only reverse that, but maybe heal it beyond, you know. So we got to be looking to those things. I think we're all thinking of a lot of stuff um, just to survive and stop this. We've got amazing weapons. What just happened in the legislation? That legislation. I told my brother, I was like, I'm gonna use you. You're a federal employee. I'm your family member. I have Havana syndrome, right? And I think maybe my family's being targeted, and I'm not sure what I'm gonna try and not. My family's really stressed out. I'm just gonna try and help them and not talk about this for now. But I think at a certain point, if you have loved ones that are being targeted, but if you say like remote neural monitoring or remote microwaves, they're just gonna tune out and be like, nah. I think maybe we've contracted Havana syndrome. Maybe we're gonna have to start there. I know that's like not what's happening, right? It's not a disease that you just contract, but we could maybe start there. So don't get too upset about Havana syndrome. That word, don't get too upset about it because it is propaganda. It is trying to stall. We can take those things though, whatever levers that they give us, and then we can turn those levers, right? And then bring all the other stuff behind that lines up with those things, right? Those initial propagandistic things that are like, mystery ringing in the ears, blah, blah. They need to be on. This stuff can get signals from your brain because they're operatives, they're American agents in other countries being hit by this, and people are looking into their brains. It's a kaskara, right? It's a mess. It's a mess, and so compartmentalized that intelligence agents and government agents are being sent in and being hit by this stuff, and that even their bosses don't know what the hell's going on, right? So it's going to have to be. I mean, it's going to have to be worked out, right? We're coming to a head on this as these big things are happening in the world. Um, things are coming to a head, you know. But the awakening is also happening. Us also. It's so weird. It's not really weird. This kind of how it's up to us to just hold on to that love, that joy, that victory, no matter what. It's especially because these are evil times, that we need to be more loving, and we need to be more faithful, and we need to have more joy, and we need to have more humor, because those things are important. Those high resonance things are so important to bring to yourself and humanity and others during the most dangerous, traumatic, awful, painful times, right? It's very ironic. We need to be happier in times um, of great pain, right? It kind of reminds me of a movie. I'm not gonna go into that. Watch it. No, no, I'm not gonna go into that. I stopped myself. Keep this. I'm gonna keep this short, guys. I love y'all. More to come. I'm thinking of stuff, right? But everything is so chaotic. There's so many different situations that I'm trying to think of our situation, and it's a part of all this. I think it's the most dangerous part of all this. I'm seeing guys that are very outspoken and they're moralists, right? Like me, and probably all of you. We do things by a moral code, not by just pragmatic. What can we get out of it, right? And I'm seeing some guys that have nothing to do with like speaking out about targeting, but they're outspoken moralists, and they're not going to be swayed by money or anything. I just want to say this: one of those people is Steven Crowder, and I know that a lot of people will be like, "Oh, you just say it." Everybody's being targeted. Like these weapon systems are just being used in so many situations, right? And it's this open secret. But if people are messing with these weapons, if they talk about them, they go to like prison and get tens of thousands of dollars of fines. But I look at Crowder, right? And that's one of the people that it's like he just had twins. Like his wife had medical problems, and then he just had twins, and then he had a heart surgery. He went back to work, and it's like he had another complication with his lung collapsing and stuff like that. Um, you know, he's a guy that when things are out in the open and there's no, you can be appropriate or say the propagandistic thing for either side, the right or the left, right? Steven Crowder does do that, but at a certain point, he is a moralist. And at a certain point, he will not do that, right? So I see them doing this to some massive creators that really influence people. Because I think that things, and we see it now happening where things are so in the face, right? Afghanistan was in our faces. It was in America's face. Like 20 years, the soldiers, I saw a soldier talking where his whole body, he got hit by an IED, and like he had to get his face restructured and his body restructured. Like, what would he think, right? Well, this is another point, but 20 years and the Taliban's bigger, better, badder than ever. The CIA is hanging them from helicopters, right? And they're running parades with them to scare all the other countries and kind of present that, yeah, we're going to have a problem with terrorism in our countries now. But I wanted to say, too, I want to say this, and this is kind of separate. What would that soldier who went and almost got killed, and like, I mean, has to now go through all these things because he was hit by an IED? He lost brothers and sisters out there in Afghanistan. What would he think if he knew that 9/11 and going to Afghanistan was for, to torture and experiment on and take away the rights of all these American citizens like me and you, right? They dishonor these people on these microwave weapon systems, these people working for these contractors. They dishonor and betray the people that used to be their brothers and sisters in the military. I don't know, man. I don't My V2K is sometimes so weird. That woman has weird it just had a weird reaction to that. She was like, yeah, I mean, like she'll get really, like, she's like, oh, and it just doesn't sound like the automated system. It's getting really like to where I just think that. So I don't know about I don't know about like my people on these systems. I think they're stuck. Like I don't. I mean, I guess they could decide to get out of there or whatever, but I don't think they get out. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know about that. And it makes me, and they're being targeted, and like I see it that they're being targeted, and it makes me think that more and more things are going to be happening that are so in everyone's face that they're trying to take care of kind of some big mouthpieces that will
really
not be
believe that.
swayed. Will say
I'm
what's
really
happening,
seeing
right?
that.
Where it's kind of the end of appropriate. Let me talk about what's acceptable. There will still be people doing that, paid to do it, tricked into doing it, you know, whatever. But there's a lot of things where smart moralists are just going to speak out on it, and it makes me think there's the things that are coming down the road, they're just going to be more and more obvious, right? And that's how it's kind of working right now. All right, guys, I love y'all. I'm not going to blab anymore. More to come, I'm thinking, but I'm also, you know, fighting through some stuff with the targeting. Yeah. God bless you all. God protect you. And I love you guys. I'll see you on the next one. And also, oh man, just did the memory thing. God, I wanted to say something. Never mind. This was a good video, though. This was a great video. We turned what my attackers tried to do into something better. God did. God did. There was something kind of important. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's why they've labeled all the patriots and Trump supporters terrorists, right? I mean, now they can use these weapons on them. They can use these weapon systems and say, well, we need to remote neural monitor them. We need to put this stuff on them. Just start experimenting on them, right? Because these people believe in the Constitution. Me, I'm a part of that, right? I'm a part of that. I don't know if I got double labeled. I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. I don't know because the targeting is just bad, right? But you know, it's like they're not going to hedge on it. They want their freedom, right? I want my freedom. You guys want your freedom. At this point, though, being a targeted individual and being murdered by this stuff, being tortured by it, so where it's worse than murder. So there's some people that are like, well, you're not dead, and you keep saying you're being. It's worse than murder. Your brain's being turned inside out. Like you have to keep going and you know I think I had a target. I got a text him back. He was saying he's got to go back to work. Like he doesn't have any money, and it's like it's worse. It's worse than death. You know, sometimes, right? And I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not trying to be negative, but for those people that are like, you keep saying that you're dying, but you're not dead yet. At certain time, it's in certain ways, this is way less merciful than death. But I mean, things can heal, and the new technology is coming out, so there's complications with that. Good complications. This was good. This was good. I'm gonna put this up. It was kind of long, but an hour and 30 minutes. It was really long. I'm just gonna put it up. I gotta get some of those other videos on BitChute and Odyssey. I'm gonna put this up on YouTube, and then I'm gonna kind of I'm gonna make sure that on YouTube it's kind of information that you guys can use, right? The targeted individuals can use, projects I'm working on, and then the massive mainstream things that are happening, and then some of the rambling videos and stuff like that are gonna have to be on BitChute and Odyssey, because not just ramblings to, I say some smart stuff even when I ramble, but some of the spiritual stuff and things like that, because I want to talk about everything, right? And I have trouble with my brain. So when I get on YouTube, I go into this mode of like, what words can I say, what words can't I say, and then that's another layer on top of my attackers messing with my memory and all that stuff. And if I can get that layer off of like, I can just say anything and talk about anything, then I'm gonna be able to speak more clearly, about things. But I'll be doing that stuff. I'll be thinking of stuff. Everybody's working hard. All good human beings on the earth, are stepping into action. I've seen some amazing people that, if you guys don't subscribe to the Patriot Nurse, is it the Patriot Nurse, right? She just had a video. She was on fire. She was saying, we've got two options here. She said one of the options was like like a local senator establishment of I forgot which amendment. I think the 10th Amendment to get the grip of federal powers off of individual states, right? And it have to be done at this local, the state legislative level, right? Our state senators for the state that don't go to Washington, and representatives for the state that are in the state, right? And it have to be done by them. And then she said something else, but it was like something that I was just like that's not going to work. But interesting what she said about the getting it happening on a local level, trying to get Amendment 10 passed. And it's like a lot of people are going to be like, that's not going to work or whatever. But she thinks like me. She's like a solution, working on a solution that may not work. She said some word that was great. And it's the way that I work too, and that's the way that things happen and get done. If people just say, well, this isn't going to work, and this isn't going to work, and this isn't going to work, and they have no solutions, then nothing's going to work, right? We've got to try things, and it'll get us along. It'll get us to the next step, right? Even if it doesn't work out exactly like we want it to, because somebody else put it in the comments, and I completely agree with this. The stuff that we have been doing for years, speaking out, conference calls, especially letters, like emails and letters to senators in the UN and everything like that. That's what made all this stuff happen and come out. Havana syndrome was a big deal, right? To bringing this thing out. As far as it's gone, right? It's still being stalled and still not being talked about on all the angles that desperately it needs to be to save some of our own soldiers and agents and whatever in the country, right? Not even to mention the citizens that have been tortured for years and years and years, right? And the citizens that have been murdered from this stuff. All right, guys, I love y'all. Just God bless you in the name of Jesus Christ. God protect you in the name of Jesus Christ. God strengthen you in the name of Jesus Christ. God give you wisdom and intelligence and joy and all those things. A joy, and there is a joy. There is a joy that can't be messed up by your mind being messed up. You get those feelings, right? And my brain's been messed with for a long time, so they can make me have like kind of a depression that I can't really get out of for the day or whatever. It seems to, there's stuff, there's releases in there, but it's not. Yeah, make it sound really bad. It's the artificial attacks to the brain, but there's a joy inside, and a signal, right? A signal from God, right? I think there's a chain. I think there's a chain of command all the way up to God, right? And Jesus Christ is in that, like right under him, right? I don't know if that, and I hope that's not blasphemous, but I've just, in the Bible, it's like Jesus is like, let's worship my Father. So I always think of him, he's the Son of God. He's divine. He has divinity, right? He's the closest that anybody on earth has come to God, right? But I don't know. Him being God is a complicated thing that that Christians talk about. I'm not sure. I think like okay, let me not get into all that stuff, but just pray in Jesus' name. And I just think there's just a wonderful, wild, good, high resonance, loves us chain of command all the way up to our great God, right? Our God, so powerful. He works through us. He works through his chain of command. He works through things seen and unseen on the earth. He's in control, right? Satan may be the prince of the air, but there is a divinity to the Word of God. I think there is a timeless nature to this chain of command that God works through. God inspired men to write the Bible, right? And there's no future, right? There's no the future is the present to God. So he's writing about making people write about things that were going to happen in certain ways. Now, I know that the prophecies are being intentionally fulfilled by certain groups. Like, don't get me wrong, I do know that, but they're still being fulfilled, right? It's the way that I've learned about the world. Mirror inside of a mirror, weird stuff. and it's like it'll throw some people off because some people will be like, well, the Bible says, there's going to be wars and rumors of wars and great catastrophes and everything, and then there are some groups that have power to create huge artificial things that are fulfilling prophecies not only in the Bible but other books that they would say are sacred and stuff like that. And then somebody would say, well, that means that there's no real prophecy, right? It's unraveling. But no, it doesn't matter that it's being done on purpose. It was still prophecy, right? Okay, guys, I love y'all. I'll kind of shut up right now. I know this was a long one. I still want to put it out. I just want to put it out because I got my. Oh, they may stop me from putting this out too. They're really hardcore. Like this guy on the V2K, and I don't even want to mention what I don't want to mess with. I don't want to like stir things up. And when it gets really weird, and he's like I'm done. He's like I'm done. We just got to finish this guy. And I think I think they could have done it at any time when I was making videos. Just like froze things up, and I don't know. I figure things out and I get around it, but I don't know. All right, I'm just babbling now. I love you guys. God bless y'all, and God protects you always in your families. And I'll definitely see you guys on the next one.